Hello, welcome to the Learn English with British Harry podcast. How are you today? I hope you're well. Now, when I ask how are you, please let me know in the comments below how you are really feeling today. I feel that sometimes when people ask this question, it's just to move on to the next topic so they can talk about what they want to talk about. But I'm really interested to know how you are feeling today. Are you feeling good? Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling worried? It's nice to share because in a world where people are very self-centered, it's nice to have that connection with other people. And sometimes you can feel if you are not feeling great, you don't want to burden the other person, you don't want to sour the mood. But that's life. We're all human, I think. So sometimes you're not going to be feeling great, and that's okay. But it will be nice to know what is going on in your life to make you feel that way. So how am I feeling? Thanks for asking. I'm okay. Life is going well. I can't complain. I feel healthy, so that's always a good thing. And I'm really enjoying doing these podcasts, as well as making the other focused videos. So if you enjoy videos about vocabulary and grammar, please feel free to also have a look at my channel. I have plenty of videos there. And this podcast is a British English podcast, and it's designed to help you to be immersed in English, to be surrounded with British English. So I am British. I was born in London. I'm also an English teacher. And I found that having podcasts like this can be really beneficial for my students, just to hear the sound of English. You may pick up on some new vocabulary and you can get used to the rhythm of speech. So today is an interesting day because I saw an article about the clock's changing. So I'm going to share that with you now. So the clocks are changing and they will go forward an hour this Sunday, the 30th of March at 1 o'clock in the morning GMT. This marks the end of Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, and the start of British Summertime, BST. Yay, it's summer. So, or Daylight Saving Time, DST. Now, this is wonderful news because it's the start of summer. And this is always a time I enjoy because you're coming out of the bleak winter. So it's always nice to have some extra sunshine. If you struggle to remember which way the clocks change, then this saying might help. Spring forward, fall back. Sadly, for those of us who like a lie-in on a Sunday morning, the clock change in spring does mean we get 1 hour less sleep. So that's an interesting saying to remember. Spring forward, fall back. So spring has two meanings here. Spring as in the season. It can also mean if you propel yourself forward, so spring forward, and fall back. Fall in America would refer to autumn. So as with anything in life, you have your pros and your cons. So your pros here, it's the start of British summer, but the cons are you'll have 1 less hour in bed. Now, I remember when I was at school, you could use this as an excuse for being late, but you can't do that anymore because you have things like your smartphones and your computers, and your laptops, which will automatically correct the time for you. So you can no longer use that as an excuse. So daylight is increasing. Now the spring equinox has passed, we're seeing more than 12 hours of daylight in most of the northern hemisphere. The clock change will mean sunrise effectively takes place an hour later. Initially, early risers will notice darker mornings following the clock change. The evenings, however, will be lighter as the sun sets later. And that's one of the marvelous things about the UK and London in particular, is the summertime, when you have these gorgeous evenings full of sunlight late into the evening, 9 or 9:30 in the evening. It's almost a shock to the system, but it is wonderful. As both sunrise and sunset times extend, the UK will end up with almost 19 hours of daylight in the north of Scotland at the summer solstice on the 21st of June. Now, it's a burning question that you may have had all of your life. Why do we have daylight saving time? Why do the clocks change? Well, we can blame Benjamin Franklin for that. The founding father and inventor first proposed daylight saving in 1784. It was seen as a cunning way to save on candles. So he wanted to save a bit of money there. Daylight saving time, DST, the process of moving clocks forward by 1 hour in the summer, was started in Germany in 1916. During World War I, it was a way to save energy resources such as coal, using fewer electric lights and less heating during the lighter evenings and being more productive. Weeks after Germany introduced DST, other countries adopted the idea, including the UK, where it was named British Summer Time, BST. During World War II, the UK introduced British Double Summer Time when clocks were advanced 2 hours. This meant that during winter, while clocks went back an hour, they were still 1 hour ahead of GMT to increase productivity during daylight. So we could see a common word there, productive and productivity. So it's almost like the government had an agenda. We want you to be more productive, and if we give you more daylight, then you can be more productive and you can make more money for the economy. Do other countries have daylight saving time? It's quite interesting. Let's see. In the UK, as in most of Europe, the clock moves forward on the last weekend of March and back an hour on the last weekend of October, but not every country observes the same dates. In the US, clocks moved forward on the 9th of March and will fall back again on the 3rd of November 2025, a week after the UK. Arizona and Hawaii are the only two states that don't observe DST. For countries on the equator, where daylight saving hours stay roughly the same throughout the year, daylight saving offers no real benefit. And in Australia, as winter moves closer, clocks will go back on the 6th of April. All but one location shifts clocks by 1 full hour. Lord Howe Island off the east coast adjusts its time by just 30 minutes, putting it in the same time zone as New South Wales during summer. So let's have a look at the arguments for and against daylight saving time. One of the biggest arguments for British summertime is that road traffic accidents decrease substantially in the lighter evenings during summer. I can see a good case for this because when you have more daylight, obviously visibility is better, it's easier to see, so you'll have less road accidents. I feel driving at night is more difficult because it's harder to see speed bumps, potholes. It's harder to anticipate when the other car is going to turn out in front of you, watching out for pedestrians. So overall, I personally, especially as I get older, I do not like driving at night. So when you have more daylight, you have more visibility, it's easier to see, it's less stressful. So I can see that as a very good reason. Back in 1968, there was a 3-year experiment to keep British summertime in place throughout the year. On average, there was a huge reduction in road casualties, but this has since been attributed to new drink driving legislation in 1967. So that's interesting. So it could have been a coincidence, but more likely it was because less people were drinking heavily and driving, so their coordination isn't impaired, their judgment isn't impaired, so they would be better at driving. In northern Scotland, however, there was a net increase in the number of people killed or seriously injured on the roads. During the darkest days of December, sunrise would not take place until 10 a.m. in some places. Wow, that would feel like torture to not see daylight until 10 a.m. Proposals to keep the United Kingdom on BST during the winter have been resisted by the Scottish government. There are currently no plans to change daylight saving in the UK. Some argue that changing the clocks twice a year is like giving the whole population a minor jet lag, with losing an hour of sleep in spring having an effect on our mental state, especially the day after. That's quite interesting. I think because I'm so used to the clocks changing, it doesn't affect me as much. But when I was younger, I did have that feeling of jet lag. So that can be quite annoying. Oops, let's get this straight here. At least remembering to put your clocks forward has become easier since the advent of smartphones, which updates the time automatically. So that is very helpful, because I remember when I was younger and before the advent of smartphones, we would have to remember to change the clocks. So that could lead to a lot of stress, especially if you have to get to school, you have to get to work. So adjusting the clocks is something that you had to remember. You would see it on the news a lot, reminding people to change the clocks. But today it's not such a big issue. I think if you are doing business with different countries, then yes, it could affect you. So if you have to juggle different time zones around the world, then you would be more cognizant of the fact that you have to be aware of the exact time. But using smartphones, again, makes it very easy to adapt to. So let me know, what do you think about the clock change? Are you affected by the clock change, and in what way? Do you think there's still a need to have the clocks being changed? It's interesting. It's something which I've just become so accustomed to that I find it quite normal. It is slightly annoying, however. This is an interesting story as well, because it marks a significant point in the year where it's the end of March, where winter is officially over and we are going into spring and looking forward to summer. Now, at this time as well, we have something called April Fools. So we have April Fool's Day. When I was younger, this was quite a fun day, but as I've gotten older, it's something which is practiced less, but I am still aware of it. So April Fool's Day is celebrated on the 1st of April in many countries around the world. On this day, people traditionally play practical jokes on each other and have fun trying to make other people believe things that are not true. So this is a great day for people that love pranks, that love practical jokes. April Fool's traditions. In the UK, jokes and tricks can be played up until noon on the 1st of April, so 12 p.m. After midday, it's considered bad luck to play a trick. Anyone who forgets this and tries a joke in the afternoon becomes an April Fool themselves. So what kind of jokes do people play? Well, a simple example would be telling your friend that their shoelaces are undone, Then when they bend down to do them up, you shout, "April Fool," and they realize their shoelaces are fine. So this is a bit of a harmful practical joke. And in a way, it's quite nice because it can break people out of their monotony. They can laugh at themselves. I think being able to laugh at yourself is very important. When you take yourself and life too seriously, it can lead to a lot of stress. So it can relieve some stress. You can laugh at the situation, even though they have the word fool, which is quite derogatory. But you know it's not personal. It's not an offensive attack on you. It's just trying to make you laugh. I personally wouldn't want to be on the end of the practical joke, though. So maybe it's not your kind of humor, but watch out, there's always someone who will find it hilarious. In Ireland, a popular prank is to send someone on a fool's errand. The victim is sent to deliver a letter supposedly asking for help. When the person receives the letter, they open it, read it, and tell the poor messenger that they will have to take the letter to another person. This continues, and the victim ends up taking the message to several different people until someone feels sorry for them and shows them what the letter says. Send the fool to someone else. In France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, Italy, and French-speaking areas of Canada and Switzerland, the first April tradition is known as the April fish. Sounds quite interesting. A common joke is to try to stick a paper fish onto a victim's back without being noticed. So that's quite interesting. This is the first I've heard about the April fish. So if you are from these countries, let me know. Do you use the April fish? April Fool's Day in the media. Some newspapers, TV channels, and well-known companies publish false news stories to fool people on the 1st of April. One of the earliest examples of this was in 1957, when a program on the BBC, the UK's national TV channel, broadcast a report on how spaghetti grew on trees. The film showed a family in Switzerland collecting spaghetti from trees, and many people were fooled into believing it. As in the 1950s, British people didn't eat much pasta and didn't know how it was made. So you can see this picture here. So these people are collecting the spaghetti being grown from trees. In today's day and age, this would be a fake picture, maybe created by AI, and you'd be able to fact check it. But in 1950, I can see how people would have trusted the BBC and believed this existed. It is quite funny if you think about it. So spaghetti growing on trees. Most British people wouldn't fall for the spaghetti trick today, but in 2008, BBC managed to fool their audience again with the Miracles of Evolution trailer, which appeared to show some special penguins that had regained the ability to fly. Two major newspapers, the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mirror, published the important story on their front pages. So again, people were fooled with the flying penguins. I can see how some people may have believed this, coupled with the fact that, okay, it's the BBC and people trust the BBC, and also it's a story which may not be too far-fetched. So maybe there were penguins and they had bigger wings so they could fly. On April Fool's Day 1998, the American hamburger chain Burger King announced that it had created a left-handed hamburger. The advert for the new product explained that all the ingredients had been rotated 180 degrees so that it was more comfortable for left-handed people to pick up and eat. The following day, Burger King admitted that this advertisement had been a hoax, but said that thousands of customers had gone to restaurants across the USA asking for a left-handed burger. Wow. I guess if you were feeling really hungry, you could have a left-handed burger and a right-handed burger. I think that would be good for a cheat day. April Fool's Day controversy. April Fool's Day fans say it encourages fun and laughter, and one study found that it reduces stress and therefore could be good for your heart. Other people point out that it can have negative consequences like confusion, worry, or wasting time and resources. That's also a very good point. So on one hand, yes, it's very fun, it can reduce stress, but on the other hand, it can lead to a lot of stress as well. It can lead to confusion and you can waste time. So if you wanted a left-handed burger from Burger King and you drove all the way to Burger King, you wasted petrol and you wasted your time. For example, a spokesperson for Dublin Zoo said staff had lost their sense of humour after they received more than 100,000 calls asking for invented names such as Mr. Sea Lions, Anaconda, and Giraffe. The callers were victims of a phone hoax who contacted the zoo after receiving a text message encouraging them to make the call. I can imagine something like this happening on The Simpsons. I think Bart Simpson may have already used one of these names, and I think if you were working at the zoo and you didn't notice something fishy was happening or there was something dodgy, then I think you need to question your animal knowledge and your animal vocabulary, especially with giraffe. If someone calls up and says, "Can I speak to Mr. Giraffe, please?" I would be quite suspicious. In the era of fake news, it's often hard on a normal day of the year to work out when we're being tricked into believing something that isn't true. But on April Fool's Day, you need to be even more alert. No one knows exactly how the tradition started, but there are plenty of people who enjoy this light-hearted day and are happy to keep the tradition alive. It could be a cathartic experience, a cathartic day, if people wanted to post lots of fake news. They can do so on this particular day. It can be reinvented as the National Day of Fake News. But on that day, I think you would question everything. So it would be interesting to see what happens this year if people do post pranks in the media. So what do you think about April Fools? Do you think it's a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Should it be banned? I think that it's a bit of harmless fun, but again, if I'm not on the receiving end, then it is fun. And it depends on the type of prank. I've come across some funny pranks that I've read about. For example, someone replaced the Oreo cream in the Oreo biscuit with toothpaste. Let me know your thoughts about April Fool's Day and the clocks changing in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day and I will see you in the next podcast. Thank you and bye-bye.